Welcome back to Klepper's Corner. Today in history. It's February 22nd, the one day on the calendar where the universe said, what if we cram treaties, coups, science revolution, civil rights, retail economics, and a Cold War sporting fever dream all into one 24-hour time slot? Whoever was scheduling history that day was overworked, undercaffeinated, and definitely behind on a deadline. So let's dive into the temporal buffet. Segment 1, Empires, Treaties, and Coups Redrawing the World. February 22nd, 1819. The Adams-Onis Treaty is signed. The U.S. gets Florida. Spain gets $5 million of American IOUs. And Andrew Jackson gets to pretend his invasion of a sovereign country was just helpful negotiating. John Quincy Adams basically weaponizes diplomatic guilt. Spain shows up like, we're exhausted, broke, and 2 revolutions behind. And the U.S. says, perfect, we'll take Florida, and all your Western map confusion. And maybe a moral victory, too. Flash forward to 1948. Czechoslovakia runs the democracy speed run on nightmare mode. The Communist Party stages a coup so fast and so efficiently that Stalin probably ordered takeout and still had time to watch it wrap up. Ministers resign in protest. Gottwald shrugs, mobilizes militias, and suddenly democracy is getting kicked out of Prague like it was late paying rent. This one day reshapes the entire Cold War. February 22nd basically said, you want a geopolitical stability? Not today. Segment 2, War, Resistance, and Moral Defiance. In 1779, George Rogers Clark wades through freezing floodwaters to attack Fort Vincennes. The man marched his troops through neck-deep ice water. Neck-deep. That's not warfare. That's a polar plunge with muskets. He even painted his face to scare his own men into being braver. Honestly, America won half its territory through psychological warfare and toxic positivity. Then, February 22nd, 1943 hits, and the White Rose Resistance faces execution. Hans Scholl shouts, "Long live freedom," as his last words, which is the kind of thing that would break the script in any movie for being too on the nose. And yet, it happened. Real courage, real consequences, real moral clarity. A student resistance group that got crushed, only to have their message airdropped across Germany by the Allies like history itself refused to let their voices die. Then for a modern tragedy. In 2006, the Al-Asqari mosque bombing plunges Iraq into sectarian chaos. A shrine with a golden dome becomes the spark to a wildfire. History on February 22nd loves to remind us that the line between stability and catastrophe is thinner than the dome's gold leaf. Segment 3, Revolutions and the Power of the Crowd. February 22nd, 1986. The People Power Revolution begins in the Philippines. Marcos is so unpopular that when the people fill the streets, even the military looks around and says, yeah, we're not shooting our neighbors. New plan, everybody. It's one of the rare global moments where democracy wins by showing up in sneakers instead of tanks. Then, February 22nd, 2014. Ukraine's parliament removes Yanukovych after months of protest. He flees the country, possibly the only head of state to leave office by running toward a helicopter faster than he ever ran toward democracy. His departure triggers Russia's move into Crimea, which triggers the entire next decade of geopolitical instability. February 22nd is like a cosmic reminder. If you don't listen to your people will hand you a suitcase and directions to Moscow. Segment 4, Science, Academia, and the Expanding Universe. 1632. Galileo's dialogue is published, and Europe collectively says, hold up, the Earth moves? It's the original argument thread that ends with someone banned by moderators, in this case, the Roman Inquisition. Galileo essentially subtweets the Pope by naming a character Simpleton, which is bold. Bold in the, you're about to get house arrested for life sense. Then, 1876. Johns Hopkins University is founded under Daniel Coit Gilman, who basically says, what if American universities actually researched things. Before this, college was mostly memorization and Latin declensions. After this, it's laboratories, peer review, grad students surviving on coffee, and panic. Modernity. Then, 1997, Dolly the sheep is announced, a clone mammal from an adult cell. Humanity immediately panics, imagining armies of clone people, none of whom were consulted about their haircut options. But Dolly isn't about replacing you. She's about understanding you from the inside out. And in 2017, we find the TRAPPIST-1 system. 7 Earth-sized planets, 3 potentially habitable. The universe basically leaves a voicemail saying, hey, if things don't work out on Earth, call us back. NASA discovers a cosmic cul-de-sac with better real estate than half of Zillow. Segment 5. Culture, commerce, and the sports upset heard around the world. February 22, 1879. Frank Woolworth invents the 5 and dime store, proving Americans will buy anything if it's cheap and displayed at arm level. Without Woolworth, there's no Walmart, no dollar stores, and no moment where you walk in needing nothing and walk out with 17 items that were each only $1. Then, 1980 hits us with the miracle on ice. The Soviet Union sends a hockey team so dominant they're practically a cheat code. The U.S. sends a bunch of college kids whose pregame nutrition probably included cafeteria macaroni. And somehow, the kids win 4-3. Al Michaels shouts, "Do you believe in miracles?" And a nation drowning in inflation and political malaise suddenly remembers joy exists. For bonus birthday chaos, George Washington, Arthur Schopenhauer, Edna St. Vincent Millay, Steve Irwin, and Drew Barrymore all share this date. That's a founding father, a philosopher of cosmic despair, a Pulitzer poet, a crocodile enthusiast, and a Hollywood icon. If they ever held a joint party, that would be the weirdest room in history. Then add in Lee Petty winning the first Daytona 500, Carlos Santana sweeping the Grammys, and iTunes passing its billionth download, and February 22nd turns into a festival of things that shouldn't be possible but somehow are. In conclusion, February 22nd is not a date. It's a historical supernova. Treaties rewrite borders. Coups rewrite governments. Revolutions rewrite power. And scientists rewrite reality itself. It's a day where human beings repeatedly ask, what if we tried something impossible? And history answers, sure, but it's going to get messy. Whether you're cloning sheep, overthrowing dictators, redefining cosmology, marching through freezing swamps, or beating the Soviet Union with college sophomores, February 22nd proves one.